Hey, welcome to another episode of Tell Me How You're Mighty. This is Tracy Shorn, your co-host. Sarah Gorel's on vacation this week, and I'm here today as Chump Lady, and we're going to be talking about common tropes of infidelity and how to defang them if you ever find yourself in the position trying to explain chumpdom to the uninitiated. And it kind of comes up because this last month, Chump Nation has been in the news, and I thought I'd take the opportunity to clap back a bit. So the bigger point, again, is not this literary grudge match I'm going to tell you about, but some talking points about how to talk about this stuff. As we all know, it takes guts to challenge a narrative, and especially to share your vulnerability as someone who is chumped. And when that happens, when you talk about it, what you're generally going to get is you're going to get told you're angry, you're bitter, you're a victim, or you're going to get Bothsiderism. You know, what'd you do to make them cheat? What was your part in this? Don't you want to own it? Like, how are you going to improve yourself to win them back? And yeah, you're going to get a lot of victim blaming. And that's pretty much what's happened. Not everywhere, but in a couple of prominent reviews of Sarah Manguso's book, The Liars. And Chump Nation in particular was acknowledged as being life-saving. And we're really proud of Sarah for the work she's done and how she's taken her moment in the limelight to really talk about infidelity as abuse. And it's making heads explode. So I'm going to read a few tropes that have kind of come up and some of the criticisms that have come up. And Beowulf is going to do the reading because he's really good at doing a sonorous, pretentious voice with gravitas. And then we're gonna sort of snark, but we're really going to actually take it apart, what it all means. So let me set the stage first if you haven't been following what's going on. You might know this from an earlier podcast in which we interviewed Sarah Manguso, or if you read the blog, that we were acknowledged. And I didn't know Sarah Manguso personally until the book came out, and she let me know that she was a part of the community. And of course, we're thrilled for her success, and we're really so proud of her. And if you haven't read Liars, check it out. It's essentially the story of a woman named Jane who's slowly being driven mad by a cheating fuckwit. And it's all about the lies he tells her and the lies that she tells herself to stay in that relationship. And the book, it's raw and it's acerbic. And in interviews, Sarah has been out front. I mean, she has said that infidelity is covert domestic abuse. And she talks about her own experience insofar as she can. I think her divorce is still pretty fresh, but she's been very brave. And like I said, this has caused some heads to explode. And I think it's because she's challenging some unspoken assumptions that we have about infidelity. So we're going to talk about those.
1. Bothsiderism, or It Takes Two to Tango. From the New York Times review of Sarah Manguso's Liars by Brian Dillon, July 23, 2024. The aggrieved wife who narrates Sarah Manguso's novel Liars may or may not be a reliable source about her monster of a husband. As the title alerts us, there is more than one liar in this novel. How much should we trust Jane's monologue, her she said control of the narrative? It is not so much that Manguso's narrator is merely unreliable, hiding her own spousal failings and misrepresenting a more innocent or hapless John.
Okay, Bothsiderism is probably the most common trope around infidelity. It's this idea that it takes two to tango, and it's the quality of the marriage that determines whether or not someone will cheat. Unfortunately, a lot of therapists still think this. It's baked in pretty deep into our culture. And if you view it from that context, if you're expecting that we're going to have a story about infidelity, the reviewer, Brian Dillon here, is upset that Jane isn't owing up to her part. You know, what's her side of the bargain? You know, you have to be honest about all your faults and what you did to drive your husband to cheat on you. If you're expecting that there's both sides to every story, you're going to look at Jane's story and go, whoa, you didn't tell that other side of the story. And I have many thoughts on this. And let me just begin with the first one, which is that what Sarah Manguso did in Liars, to me, is revolutionary. Because she wrote a portrait of a woman who did not do what we expect her to do, which is all the self-recrimination and all the self-blame. And, she's documenting it, right? She lays Jane's pain out on a slab, this day-to-day grinding of what her life is, and she dares us to look at it, right? She's granular in her descriptions of what it's like to be mind-fucked and to live with chaos and to live with a cheater. And she's not making excuses for him. She's not making excuses for him. So she's being criticized for making John, who's the fuckwit in that story, two-dimensional. So the reviewer here is asking, if you read the whole review, he's like, where's the depth? Where's the psychological profile? Why don't we know his motivations? And first of all, novels can be from the point of view of a protagonist. So I don't understand why they're expecting Manguso to be omnipotent and describe both sides. But my bigger point would be that some people are actually two-dimensional. I mean, that's the chump condition, is that we ascribe depth to fuckwits. So when I hear this criticism, surely he can't be that bad, oh my God, she's just totally overstating the case. I'm like, bitch, please, you should read my mail. You should spend some time reading the archives of the blog if you don't believe that people can be this vacuous, this checked out, this narcissistic. I mean, unfortunately, there's many, 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 many examples of it. So it's a very unsatisfying answer about fuckwits. It's that they're not that deep, right? And that we are continually astonished by how not deep they are. And that, yes, someone can be this vapid, this narcissistic, this uncaring, and a person can bond with them. And they can bond with them to their own detriment. And a lot of what keeps people stuck with jerks or fuckwits or narcissists or whatever you want to call them is the narrative that it takes two, right? That's like one of the powerful forces that keeps you stuck with a fuckwit, because you're constantly wondering what you did to make this person behave so carelessly. And you can get stuck in a loop of trying to improve yourself to make them behave differently, which I can tell you from personal experience is pointless. And it's magical thinking, and we don't have superpowers. So the proper response to Bothsiderism is no. All it takes is one person acting unilaterally to hurt another person. We don't drive people to drink, we don't make them hit us, and we don't make them cheat on us. We don't have superpowers. You didn't know, you didn't consent, and there is no other side. Of course, to say that, vulnerability is very scary, and that's why people have to believe that they would be smarter than that, and that they could never be chumped.
2. Infidelity is complex, aka the critiques of Chump Nation or Sarah Manguso suffer from black and white thinking. By Catherine Jesser Morton in The Cut, August 31st, 2024. The fans who are grateful for a reprieve from having to hear about the male half of a marriage at all, and for whom Jane's rage sounds like a clarion call for women to stop making themselves small and agreeable for the sake of a man's comfort, and the detractors, including New Yorker book critic Paru Segal, who took issue with Jane's one-note martyrdom at the hands of John the villain, himself a bit of a caricature of masculine incompetence. The characters lack the dimension needed to make the book really moving, Segal argues. Segal's review was provocative, not just because it was grumpy, as she herself put it, but because, to some, she appeared to be breaking an unwritten rule among women, and mothers in particular, that binds us together in solidarity against the world's assholes. The rule goes something like this. A woman who is the aggrieved party in a relationship with a man is entitled to affirmation from other women. Women in this situation are considered categorically blameless. The group text will defend its members, no questions asked, no matter how heinous the crime. Nothing can compel us to break the bonds of affirmation. This is a rule based on fairly reductive black and white thinking. In the comments of this piece, this argument is stated again. Nameless commentator. It is your choice to paint infidelity and gender and the complexities of our relationships to others and our own humanity with such broad strokes, because simplifying everyone to base caricatures is more digestible for the ego when it's been injured. But black and white thinking has no place in the art of fiction, and that's what's being looked at critically in relation to Manguso's work. Painting characters as mustache-twirling villains devoid of nuance is bad art.
Okay, cheating is complex, is a not-so-veiled insult. Okay, what they're saying is you're simple, you're puritanical, you cannot conceive of nuance, you're just bitter and emotional, and you lack all rationality. Also, interestingly, maybe not, depending, it puts the critic in a position of superiority. They can see all sides. They can be magnificent and sympathetic to both points of view, and they're above judgment, unlike petty people like you. To which I usually ask, is drowning kittens wrong? Because most civilized people anyway, would agree that drowning kittens for sport or pleasure is wrong. So if I criticize kitten drowners, have I indulged in black and white thinking? Because, stand back, we all agree that drowning kittens is wrong. So if I criticize someone who puts Fluffy and Snowball in a sack and throws them in the river, and I say that's wrong, have I just indulged in black and white thinking? What if I go on to argue that I have a very good reason to take pleasure in drowning kittens? They fail to be cute. They peed on the carpet. We would think that people making excuses, we would think that they're rationalizing, right? Because why would we immediately see that as bullshit? Because fundamentally, we believe that drowning kittens is wrong. So it's only complicated when we aren't clear that it's wrong. Cheating on your partner might be okay. Maybe they peed on the carpet. Maybe there was a dead bedroom. Maybe they were the abusive one. Cheating is okay if you have a good reason, and the ability to think of reasons that excuse cheating make you a sophisticated thinker and not someone who indulges in black and white thinking. Cheating is okay is some people's value system, but they don't want to say that. So instead, they want to accuse you of being judgmental and unsophisticated. So the commentator that we noted, I went round and round with them, which I probably shouldn't do, but I couldn't hold myself back, I guess. And so eventually they admitted that cheating is, air quotes, morally wrong, as if that was a theoretical thing and no one gets STD or wastes years of their life on a moral question. But what we're trying to take apart here on the, on this issue of the black and white thinking, there's really two battlefields going on. And the first one is, do you think cheating is wrong? And is making a judgment, aka black and white thinking, is that a bad thing? I think we can declare a few things, unequivocally wrong, like slavery, for example, And when I use something extreme like this, like slavery, or that's wrong, or drowning kittens, that's wrong, the critic is going to go, well, that's a false equivalence. Nobody's arguing about drowning kittens. We all know that that's wrong. But we don't all know that's wrong. See, it just depends on your values, right? Some people, too goddamn many people, don't think slavery is wrong. I think, personally, there's no excuse for slavery. And we can disagree about that, right? So that's the first battlefield, right? Is it wrong? Is it wrong? Yes, it's wrong. So there, I made a black and white judgment. And now the next battlefield is, it's wrong, but, right? It's wrong, but that kitten peed on the carpet. It's wrong, but that cheater had good reasons. As someone who is cheated on, I do not need to be invested in the reasons. I do not care about the motivations of someone who harmed me. It is offensive that you expect me to be invested in the motivations of someone who harmed me. That is only relevant if I am continuing a relationship with them. And even then, I would argue that it's not relevant. That is work that they need to do with a therapist, not me. If someone pistol whips me, I don't need to know what they were thinking. Pistol whipping is not something I want in my relationships. Do you see how that works? It's like your response is very black and white. You know, the answer is I don't accept cheating in my intimate relationships. That is my judgment call. You may have different values.
3. Quit playing the victim. Being upset about infidelity is an ego response.
Okay, telling someone to quit playing the victim or that they're having an ego response or whatever, this is just another way to call you bitter. I think the argument goes, you're just mad because they cheated and you lost the pick-me dance and you can't get over it, so you're going to demonize all cheaters. Which I guess I'm just going, I guess there were just a bunch of good cheaters out there and I demonized the ones that had, at any rate, we're going to move on. I find this a really weird criticism because I created a site expressly to get people to leave cheaters, to achieve meh, right? To feel indifference towards them. I preach this all the time. You know, if it feels good, don't do it. Let go. You know, revenge is a life best lived, you know, without them. On and on and on. Leave a cheater, gain a life. And I created a podcast with Sarah for people to tell me about their better lives on the other side of leaving a cheater. So generally when I read this, I just think this person has never read my work or they don't give a shit about my opinion. They're just, I don't know, they pulled it out of their ass. I don't know. But let's deconstruct victimhood for a second. All it takes to be a victim, okay, of anything is to have been acted upon against your will. You were a victim of crime. That mugger took your wallet. You did not consent to have your wallet taken. Ergo, you're a victim. So cheaters act unilaterally, right? And so do criminals. We aren't having consensus roundtables, you know? They're acting in secret. So victim is the accurate term here, okay? You're not play acting at this. This actually happened to you. Of course, it's very unfashionable to be a victim of anything because we prefer the bootstrapping approach to life, you know, about overcoming. And I'm all about the bootstrapping. I'm all about the overcoming. But to get there first is you have to acknowledge that a harm was done, right? You're overcoming something, right? So I think it's very important to validate someone's experience. And that is not to say you're giving mindless affirmation of whatever the cut was accusing the blog of. It's validating that yes, this happened to you, and yes, you do not possess superpowers, and you did not make them cheat on you. And in that sense, you are faultless, right? Because you didn't consent to this. You were not consulted, right? You did not make this happen to yourself. So the battlefield here is about your lived experience. Your anger is very threatening to this person who probably aligns himself with a cheater, or that entitlement to act out on innocence, right? So when you're saying, hey, look, there's victims of this harmed me, this was the result, here are the specifics of what this abuse looks like, you're upsetting the apple cart, right? They don't want to hear that. But they also don't want to be out in the open about who they align themselves with. So they're going to claim that, you know, you're a victim, you're angry, or irrational. And I'm not going to suggest a response here because I don't think anyone like this actually deserves a response. Because the minute you're trying to convince someone of your intrinsic human value, you're losing. I mean, this person's an idiot if they think that they wouldn't respond to betrayal without hurt and anger. But again, they're trying to argue that you're too emotional, you're too hurt, you're too angry to call out abuse. And I'm like, fuck them and feed them Fruit Loops. No, the thing to do here is don't say fuck them and feed them Fruit Loops. I'm telling you that. But the thing to do is is just be calm and hold your ground and don't give in to their narrative. Or if you're me, you can draw a subversive cartoon or 20, start a blog, and maybe you too can grow up one day to warp an author's mind and wind up maligned in the New Yorker. Thanks. See you next week. That wraps another episode of Tell Me How You're Mighty. You want to leave us a mighty story or a fuckwit of the week submission? Check out our new website, tellmehowyourmighty.com. That's yours spelt Y-O-U-R-E. We've got all the episodes, show notes, links to our guests, and you can see the tea room where Sarah and I first met. If you enjoyed this episode, please review the podcast and follow us. Thanks. See you next week.